Rachel Brennan stood in a dark gas station parking lot staring at 8 crumpled dollar bills in her hand. Her last $8, her daughter's breakfast money for tomorrow morning. The bills were worn soft from being folded and unfolded, counted and recounted. One $5 bill creased down the middle from living in her pocket. 3 ones so old they felt like cloth instead of paper. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered and buzzed like dying insects casting harsh shadows across the cracked pavement. Oil stains made dark patterns on the concrete years of cars leaking their lives into the ground. It was just past 11 at night and the place was almost empty. Just her, the night attendant, inside watching something on his phone, and the sound of distant traffic on Route 66. The old highway, the mother road, the artery that once carried America's dreams west. Then she heard the sound, a man gasping for air. 30 feet away, a massive figure leaned against a chrome motorcycle under one of the lights. The bike gleamed like liquid silver, every surface polished to mirror perfection. Custom work, expensive, the kind of machine that cost more than Rachel made in 6 months. He wore a black leather vest covered in patches. Hell's Angels. Even from this distance, Rachel could see the skull logo with wings spread wide across his back. The death head, the symbol everyone recognized, the symbol everyone feared. The patches told stories she couldn't read. Rockers showing territory, numbers meaning things she didn't understand. Years of riding, brotherhood, loyalty, a life completely foreign to hers. The man was probably 6'3", maybe 250 pounds of solid muscle gone soft with age. His beard was thick and gray, reaching halfway down his chest, braided in places. His arms were covered in tattoos that told stories she'd never understand. Stories of places she'd never been, people she'd never meet. A world that existed parallel to hers but never touched it. Until tonight, until this moment. Until this choice she didn't know she'd have to make. She'd heard the warnings her whole life. Stay away from guys like that. Dangerous, criminal, nothing but trouble. Her grandmother had said it crossing the street whenever she saw a motorcycle. Her teachers had said it in school, those cautionary tales about bad choices and worse company. The news said it constantly, every report about drug busts and gang violence. Everyone said it. The entire world agreed. Hell's Angels meant danger, meant violence, meant stay away if you know what's good for you. And now here she was alone in a parking lot with one of them 30 feet away, and every cell in her body screamed, run. Rachel started walking toward the street, minding her own business, heading home like she should. She had Emma to think about, her 6-year-old daughter waiting in bed, trusting her mama to come home safe. Emma, who still believed the world was good, who still thought people were kind, who still trusted that mommy could fix anything, who still slept with that ratty stuffed rabbit she'd had since birth, the one with the missing eye and the torn ear that Rachel kept sewing back on. Emma, who deserved better than this neighborhood, this apartment, this life. Emma, who deserved a mother who made smart choices, who didn't take risks, who came home safe every single night. Rachel couldn't risk that, couldn't risk her, couldn't be stupid, couldn't be reckless. Then the man stumbled. His hand shot to his chest like he was trying to hold something in or push something out. His face twisted in pain, visible even from this distance. Real pain, the kind that makes grown men cry, the kind that doesn't lie. He dropped to one knee, gasping like he couldn't pull air into his lungs, like someone had wrapped steel bands around his chest and was tightening them, like he was drowning on dry land surrounded by air he couldn't breathe. Rachel stopped walking. Her feet made the decision before her brain could catch up, before logic could override instinct, before fear could win. The man collapsed onto the pavement flat on his back. His motorcycle caught him, held him for a second, then he slid down, hit the ground hard. His breathing came in short, desperate bursts, each one weaker than the last, each one more shallow, like a motor running out of gas, sputtering, dying. His lips were turning blue in the harsh overhead light, the color of winter, the color of ice, the color of death. She stood there frozen. Every instinct screamed at her to keep walking. This wasn't her problem. She had $8 in her pocket and a daughter waiting at home. She had her own life to worry about, her own struggles, her own catastrophes waiting to happen. Rent due in 3 days, electricity about to be shut off, Emma's inhaler empty, her own survival hanging by a thread. She didn't have room for someone else's emergency, didn't have space for someone else's crisis. But then she heard it, a sound that made her blood run cold, a sound worse than the gasping, worse than the struggling. Nothing. The man wasn't breathing anymore. His massive chest had stopped moving, just still, completely still, like someone had pressed pause on his life, like God had looked away for a moment and forgotten to keep him alive. And in that moment, Rachel Brennan had a choice to make, the kind of choice that defines who you are, the kind of choice you can't take back, the kind of choice that echoes through every moment that comes after. She could walk away, should walk away. Every rational part of her brain said walk away. He's dangerous. He's not your problem. You have Emma to think about. You have $8. You have tomorrow to survive. You have your own life hanging by a thread, and you're about to cut it for a stranger, for a criminal, for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. But she couldn't, because she remembered. 36 hours earlier, before the gas station, before the choice, before everything changed, Rachel's alarm had gone off at 5 in the morning. The sound cut through the darkness like violence, like an assault on sleep, on peace, on the only escape she had from her life. She reached over and slapped it, silent, then lay there for 30 seconds, staring at the ceiling, gathering strength for another day, another hustle, another 24 hours of survival. She dragged herself out of bed in the tiny apartment she shared with Emma. The place was small, run down in a neighborhood in South Tulsa that had seen better days, better decades, better generations. The kind of neighborhood where people used to leave their doors unlocked, where kids played in the streets until the streetlights came on, where everyone knew everyone and looked out for each other, where block parties happened every summer and people borrowed sugar and returned it with cookies, where community meant something. Not anymore. Now it was the kind of place where you kept your head down and your door locked and your eyes on your own business, where you didn't ask questions and you didn't get involved and you definitely didn't trust strangers, where gunshots at night were background noise, where sirens were so common you stopped hearing them, where police cars cruising slowly meant trouble was coming or trouble had already been, where the good people were leaving as fast as they could save up deposits for better apartments in better neighborhoods, with better schools and better futures. But it was home. It was all they had. The rent was $650 a month for a one-bedroom apartment with a kitchen the size of a closet and a bathroom where the toilet ran constantly and the shower barely produced hot water. But it was theirs, as long as Rachel could pay, as long as Mr. Henderson didn't find a reason to evict them, as long as they could hold on. She walked into the kitchen, her bare feet cold on the linoleum floor. The pattern was faded, worn through in places from decades of footsteps. She opened the cabinet. One box of cereal almost empty. She could see the bottom of the box through the remaining flakes. Generic brand. The kind that turned to mush 30 seconds after you poured milk on it. The kind that tasted like cardboard but cost half as much as the real thing. Half a carton of milk in the refrigerator. She'd bought it 4 days ago. Rationed it. Made it last. 1 cup for Emma's cereal each morning. Not a drop more. She poured the last bit into Emma's bowl and made it stretch as far as it would go, tipped the box, shook out every last flake, scraped the corners with her finger to get the dust. There wasn't enough for 2 people. There was barely enough for 1. But Emma would eat. That was the rule, the law, the one thing Rachel would never compromise on. Emma always ate first. Emma always ate enough. Even if Rachel went hungry, even if Rachel skipped meals, even if Rachel felt her own stomach cramping with emptiness. Emma came padding out in her pink pajamas, rubbing her eyes. The pajamas were too small, had been for months. The cuffs hit her mid-calf instead of her ankles. The sleeves stopped inches above her wrists. But they were her favorites, covered in cartoon unicorns, and Rachel couldn't afford new ones yet. Her blonde hair stuck up in all directions, wild from sleep, tangled and sweet. She had her mother's green eyes, the color of spring leaves, of hope, of life. And her father's smile, though Rachel tried not to think about him anymore. Tried not to remember the man who'd promised forever and delivered 3 years. Left when Emma was 3 years old and never looked back. Never called, never sent money, never asked how his daughter was doing, never wondered if she had enough to eat, or clothes that fit, or a mother who was drowning, trying to keep them both alive. Just gone, vanished, like he'd never existed except for the daughter he left behind and the hole in Rachel's heart that never quite healed. "Good morning, Mommy." Emma's voice was soft, still heavy with sleep, sweet and trusting and innocent. The voice of a child who still believed the world was good, who still thought tomorrow would be better than today, who still trusted that grown-ups knew what they were doing. "Morning, baby." Rachel kissed the top of her head, breathed in the smell of her daughter's shampoo. The cheap kind from the dollar store, lavender scented, but it smelled like hope somehow. Like innocence. Like everything good in the world concentrated in one small person. She set the bowl on the small kitchen table, the one that wobbled if you leaned on it wrong. The one Rachel had found at a yard sale 3 years ago for $15. The one that had coffee cup rings and crayon marks and memories carved into its surface. Emma climbed into her chair, the one with the wooden slats that were starting to come loose. Started eating, slowly, carefully, savoring each spoonful like she knew it had to last. Like she understood even at 6 years old that food wasn't guaranteed, that tomorrow might be harder than today, that Mommy was doing her best, but her best sometimes wasn't enough. 6 years old and already learning to ration, already learning that wanting more didn't mean getting more, already learning the cruel mathematics of poverty, the addition that never adds up, the subtraction that leaves you with less than zero. Rachel didn't make a bowl for herself, didn't even consider it. There wasn't enough. This was life now, had been for 3 years. Since Emma's father left, since Rachel became the only thing standing between her daughter and the street, counting every dollar, stretching every meal, making do with less, always less, never enough, praying that nothing unexpected happened because there was no cushion, no safety net, nothing to fall back on. One flat tire away from catastrophe, one missed shift away from eviction, one sick day away from losing everything. The margin of error was zero. The tolerance for mistakes was none. The room for bad luck was non-existent. Rachel worked 2 jobs. Had to. One job wouldn't cut it. Not in this economy. Not for a single mother with a 6-year-old daughter. Not when rent kept going up and wages stayed the same. Not when everything cost more except the hours in a day and the strength in her body. Mornings at the laundromat on Peoria Avenue folding strangers' clothes for $11 an hour. Her shift started at 6:30 and ran until 2 in the afternoon. 8 hours of grabbing wrinkled shirts and pants from industrial dryers, the heat making the small room feel like an oven. Like hell with fluorescent lighting and the smell of detergent. Folding them into neat squares. Stacking them in plastic baskets. Over and over, the same motions, the same rhythm. Grab, shake, fold, stack. Grab, shake, fold, stack. 1,000 times a day, 10,000 times a week. Her mind went on autopilot. Had to. Otherwise, the monotony would drive her insane. Otherwise, she'd think too much about her life, about how she'd ended up here, about how this wasn't the plan, wasn't the dream, wasn't what she'd imagined when she was Emma's age, believing the world was good and the future was bright and anything was possible. Jeans, towels, sheets, pillowcases, socks paired and rolled. Other people's lives embedded in fabric. Other people's stains and smells and stories. Businessmen's shirts, nurses' scrubs, families' everything. She folded them all, made them neat, made them clean, made them ready to return to lives she'd never live, to people who'd never know her name, who'd never think about the woman who folded their clothes, who'd never wonder if she had enough to eat, or a daughter at home, or dreams that died a little more each day. The monotony was almost meditative, almost peaceful, except for the ache in her lower back that started around hour 3 and grew until it felt like someone was driving nails into her spine. Except for the pain in her hands from the repetitive motions, the joints swelling, the fingers cramping. Except for the smell of other people's lives, sometimes pleasant, sometimes not always overwhelming. Except for the heat that made sweat pool at the base of her spine and soak through her shirt. Except for the knowledge that this was it. This was her life. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, folding other people's clothes for $11 an hour. Do the math. 8 hours times $11. $88 a day before taxes. Call it 70 after the government took its share. Times 5 days, $350 a week. Times 4 weeks, $1,400 a month. Minus $650 for rent. Minus $200 for utilities. Minus $150 for Emma's school expenses. Minus $300 for food. Leaving $100 for everything else. For clothes, for medicine, for emergencies, for the 1,000 things that cost money, for the reality that $100 doesn't cover the gap between survival and catastrophe, which is why Rachel needed the second job. Then she'd walk 3 blocks to Joe's Diner and work the evening shift. She'd arrive at 3, change into her uniform in the back room that smelled like grease and dreams deferred, a room with a cracked mirror, and a bench with torn vinyl and a sense of resignation so thick you could taste it. Tie her hair up into a ponytail. Check her reflection. The face looking back was tired. So tired. 32 years old but looking older. Lines around her eyes, shadows underneath them. A woman who'd aged a decade in 3 years. Force a smile onto her face. The smile customers expected. The smile that earned tips. The smile that said, I'm happy to serve you, even though my feet are already screaming and I have 6 more hours ahead of me. She served truckers who'd been driving for 18 hours straight and just wanted hot coffee and a warm meal, and maybe a kind word from someone who didn't want anything from them except their order. Men with road-weary eyes and stories they'd tell if you had time to listen. Men who tipped well if you kept their coffee hot and didn't judge them for eating alone. Late-night crowds who came in after the bars closed loud and sometimes mean, smelling like alcohol and bad decisions. Demanding, difficult. The ones who snapped their fingers for service and left quarters, if you were lucky, and nothing if you weren't. Families on road trips, parents exhausted and frayed kids sticky with ice cream and exhaustion and boredom. The ones who made messes and left small tips, but at least said please and thank you, at least acknowledged she was human, at least treated her with basic decency. She refilled coffee cups until her arm ached, took orders she'd memorized years ago, burger medium rare, fries extra crispy, eggs over easy, pancakes with extra butter, coffee black, coffee with cream, coffee with sugar, sweet tea, unsweet tea, water with lemon, water no lemon. 1,000 variations of the same requests. Delivered plates of food she couldn't afford to buy for herself. Food she'd look at and calculate while her own stomach growled. That burger is $8. That's Emma's lunch for 2 days. Those fries are $3.50. That's bus fare for tomorrow. That slice of pie is $4. That's dinner tomorrow night. Everything translated into survival mathematics. Everything measured in what it cost versus what it bought in terms of staying alive. She hustled for tips that sometimes added up to $20, sometimes less. Smiled at the ones who left nothing, the ones who ran her ragged and stiffed her completely. Thanked the ones who left quarters like they'd done her a favor. Remembered the rare ones who left $5 and meant it when they said, God bless you. The ones who saw her. really saw her, saw the exhaustion and the struggle and the desperate hustle. The ones who understood that tips weren't extra, they were survival. They were the difference between making rent and not making rent, between Emma eating and Emma going hungry, between staying afloat and drowning. Her car had broken down 3 weeks ago. The Honda she'd bought used 5 years ago, with money she'd saved from tax returns and birthday cards and every spare dollar she could scrape together. The car that represented freedom, independence, the ability to get to work without walking. The transmission went out on her way home from the diner one night, just stopped working in the middle of the road traffic, honking behind her people, yelling hazard lights, flashing. She'd felt it coming for weeks. The slipping, the grinding, the way it hesitated when she shifted. But she couldn't afford to fix it then, and she couldn't afford to fix it when it finally died completely. She'd had to call a tow truck, watch them haul it to the impound lot, watch her freedom disappear on the back of a flatbed. The mechanic, a man named Bobby, who'd gone to high school with her grandmother, looked at her with pity in his eyes. The kind of pity that hurt worse than anger. The kind that said, I know you can't afford this, and we both know what that means. Transmission shot. Gonna cost $1,200 to fix. Maybe more if there's other damage. Could be as much as $1,500. And that's if I can find a used transmission. New would be $3,000 easy. $1,200 might as well have been 12 million. 1,500 might as well have been the moon. 3,000 might as well have been another planet in another galaxy, in another universe where Rachel didn't exist. So now she walked everywhere. 3 miles to work in the morning, her breath visible in the cold air, cars rushing past her on their way to better jobs in better neighborhoods, with better schools and better futures. People who had cars that worked and lives that worked and futures that looked like something other than survival. 3 miles between jobs, her feet already aching from 8 hours of standing, knowing she had 6 more hours ahead of her at the diner. Knowing that walking saved $470 in bus fare. Knowing that $470 was lunch tomorrow or bus fare the next day, or the slow accumulation of dollars that might someday mean something. 2 miles home at night, alone on dark streets, keys between her fingers just in case the wrong person approached, just in case someone decided a lone woman was an easy target, just in case her luck ran out the way it felt like it was constantly threatening to do. All in worn-out sneakers with a hole in the left sole, sneakers she'd bought 2 years ago that had walked thousands of miles, that had worn through, that needed replacing, that she couldn't afford to replace. She could feel the pavement through the thin rubber with every step, feel the heat in summer baking through the sole, feel the cold in winter seeping into her bones, feel every pebble, every crack, every imperfection in the sidewalk, feel the miles adding up, feel her body breaking down, feel the slow erosion of her health in exchange for survival. The bills kept coming. They always did, like clockwork, like gravity, like death and taxes and all the other certainties in life. Rent was due in 3 days, $650. She had $500, was $150 short, always scrambling, always juggling. Pay this bill, skip that bill. Pay rent late, pay electricity on time. Choose food over medicine. Choose medicine over food. An endless series of impossible choices with no good answers. The landlord, Mr. Henderson, had already threatened eviction once. Stood in her doorway 2 months ago, arms crossed, face hard as stone. A man who'd owned this building for 30 years and had seen 1,000 tenants come and go and had learned not to care about their stories, their excuses, their reasons. He'd looked past her into the apartment, seen Emma playing with her toys on the floor, seen the shabby furniture and the worn carpet and the evidence of poverty everywhere. Smelled it even. That particular smell of not quite enough, of making do, of survival. If you're late again, Miss Brennan, I'll have no choice. I got bills too. This ain't charity. This is business. I got a mortgage. I got property taxes. I got a dozen other people who take this apartment if you can't pay. People who pay on time every month. People who don't make excuses. She promised she wouldn't be late, made promises she wasn't sure she could keep, promises that depended on tips being good and nothing going wrong, and Emma staying healthy and the universe giving her a break just this once. But what else could she do, begged Cry explained, that she was doing everything she could and it still wasn't enough. He'd heard it all before, from 100 other tenants, 1,000. He didn't care about her story because everyone had a story, and none of them changed the fact that rent was due on the 1st and late on the 5th, and eviction started on the 10th. Emma's asthma inhaler needed refilling. $60 she didn't have. $60 that might as well have been $6,000. The prescription had run out last week. Rachel had been stretching the last one, counting puffs, telling Emma to only use it when she really needed it. Only when her breathing got bad, only when her chest got tight and her lips started to turn blue. She hated doing that, hated being the kind of mother who rationed medicine, who played Russian roulette with her daughter's health, who watched her child struggle to breathe, watching her chest heave with effort, listening to the wheeze that meant the asthma was winning, knowing that medicine sat in a pharmacy 3 blocks away, but might as well have been on the moon. All because of $60. $60 that could save her daughter's life. $60 she didn't have. The electricity bill had an overdue notice taped to the refrigerator. Red letters, final warning before shutoff. Another $147 she'd managed not to pay for 2 months. She'd called the electric company twice, sat on hold for 30 minutes each time, explained her situation to people who'd heard 1,000 situations just like hers, begged for an extension. They'd given her 2 weeks. That was 10 days ago. In 4 more days, they'd shut it off. Then she and Emma would be sitting in the dark. No lights, no refrigerator, no way to keep food cold, no way to cook, no way to live like a normal human being in the 21st century. But Rachel didn't complain. Not out loud, not where Emma could hear, not where anyone could hear. She'd learned a long time ago that complaining didn't pay the bills, didn't change anything, didn't make the world softer or kinder or more forgiving, just made you bitter, made you hard, made you into someone she didn't want to be, into the kind of person who'd walked past her grandmother on that sidewalk, who'd seen suffering and chosen convenience, who decided someone else's crisis wasn't their problem. Her grandmother had raised her with one simple rule passed down through generations of Irish women who'd survived harder times than these. Women who'd survived famine in the old country and immigration to the new one, and depression and wars and 1,000 small catastrophes. Women who'd buried children and husbands and dreams but kept going anyway. Kept putting one foot in front of the other. Kept believing that tomorrow might be better even when today suggested otherwise. Kindness costs nothing, baby. And sometimes it's all we got to give. When you got nothing else, when the world has taken everything, you can still choose to be kind. That's the one thing they can't take from you. The one thing that's always yours to give. And sometimes, baby girl, sometimes that kindness is what saves you. What saves someone else? What makes the difference between a world worth living in and a world that's given up completely? So Rachel smiled at her coworkers even when exhaustion pressed down on her shoulders like a physical weight, even when her body screamed for rest, for sleep, for one day where she didn't have to hustle, where she could just be instead of constantly doing. Even when Janet, her supervisor at the laundromat, criticized everything she did. Fold faster. That's not how we do corners. You're 3 minutes late. In 5 years, Janet had never once asked Rachel how she was doing. Never asked about Emma. Never acknowledged that Rachel was a human being with a life outside these walls, with struggles and dreams and a daughter who needed her. Just criticism. Just demands. Just the constant implication that Rachel wasn't doing enough, wasn't good enough, wasn't worth basic human decency. But Rachel smiled anyway. Said yes, ma'am, said I'll do better, said whatever she needed to say to keep the job that kept them alive. She asked customers how their day was going, even when her feet ached so badly she could barely stand, even when she wanted to scream, even when the thousandth person that day snapped their fingers at her, or called her sweetie in that condescending way, or left her a dollar tip on a $40 bill like they'd done her a favor. She asked because that's what her grandmother would have done. That's what kindness looked like when you had nothing else to give. She kept a small journal by her bed where she wrote 3 things she was grateful for every night, no matter how hard the day had been, no matter how close they were to the edge, no matter how much it felt like the universe was actively working against them. Some nights it was hard. Some nights she stared at that blank page for 10 minutes trying to find 3 things, trying to find gratitude in exhaustion, hope in desperation, light in darkness. But she always found them, always wrote them down, because that's what her grandmother had taught her. That's how you survive. You find the good, you write it down. You remember that even on the worst days, there's something to be grateful for. And if you can't find 3 things, baby girl, you look harder, you dig deeper, you find them anyway. Because gratitude is a choice, hope is a choice, kindness is a choice, and those choices are what make you human instead of just another animal trying to survive. This particular Tuesday started like every other day, a mirror image of yesterday, a preview of tomorrow, the same routine she'd followed for 3 years, the same hustle, the same survival. Rachel walked Emma to Mrs. Webb's apartment before school. Mrs. Webb was 72, lived alone in the apartment 2 doors down. The apartment she'd lived in for 40 years, where she'd raised 5 children, where her husband had died 10 years ago, where she now spent her days helping neighbors, watching children, being the kind of person who still believed in community, who still believed people should help each other, who lived her beliefs instead of just talking about them. She watched Emma in the mornings out of kindness, pure kindness, the kind that's increasingly rare in a world that measures everything in money and value in exchange. Never asked for payment, never expected anything in return. Rachel had tried to pay her, once pushed a $20 bill into her weathered hand. Mrs. Webb had looked offended, actually hurt, like Rachel had insulted. Honey, we help each other. That's what neighbors do. That's what community means. You keep that money, buy that baby some new shoes. I see that hole in hers. I see those pants that are too short. I see what you're not saying. You don't owe me money, child. You owe it forward. When your situation is better, you help somebody else. That's how this works. That's how we all survive. Rachel headed to the laundromat. The walk took 45 minutes. She'd timed it, knew every crack in the sidewalk, every shortcut, every dog that barked behind every fence, knew which houses to avoid at which times, knew the rhythm of the neighborhood like she knew her own heartbeat. She folded clothes for 8 hours, her mind on autopilot. Jeans, towels, sheets, over and over. The steam from the dryers made her hair frizz, made her clothes stick to her skin, made the room feel 10 degrees hotter than it actually was, made breathing feel like work. At 2 in the afternoon, Rachel clocked out and walked to Joe's Diner. Her shift didn't start until 3, but she liked to get there early. Grab a coffee from the pot they kept for employees, the burnt bitter coffee that sat too long but was free and caffeinated, and that's what mattered. Sit in the back booth for 15 minutes. Just breathe. Just exist without having to fold or smile or hustle. Just be Rachel for a few minutes before she had to put on the uniform and the smile and become someone's waitress again. Louise Harper slid into the booth across from her like she did most days. Louise was in her 60s, had worked at Joe's Diner for 20 years, raised 3 kids on tips and minimum wage, lost her husband to cancer 10 years back, kept working because what else was she gonna do? Sit at home and wait to die. Louise had kind eyes that had seen too much and hands rough from decades of hard work. Hands that knew struggle, that understood sacrifice. Hands that looked like Rachel's would look in 30 years if she survived that long. She looked at Rachel the way a mother looks at a daughter, the way Rachel's own mother might have looked if she'd lived past Rachel's 5th birthday. If she hadn't been one more casualty in a long line of women who'd worked themselves to death trying to survive. You look tired, honey. Louise's voice was soft, concerned. The voice of someone who actually cared. I'm always tired. Rachel said it with a small smile, trying to make it sound like a joke, like it didn't hurt to admit, like exhaustion wasn't her constant companion. Louise didn't smile back. She never fell for Rachel's deflections, never accepted the facade. She could see through it, could see the truth underneath. You work yourself to death for that little girl. She's worth it. Rachel meant it. Every word. Emma was worth everything. Worth the exhaustion, worth the struggle, worth the slow destruction of Rachel's body and health and future. If working herself to death meant Emma had a chance, then it was worth it. Louise patted her hand. Her skin was paper thin, veins visible like rivers on a map, liver spots dotting the backs of her hands like constellations, age written in every line and wrinkle. I know she is baby, but you got to take care of yourself too. You hear me? Can't pour from an empty cup. Can't give what you don't have. You run yourself into the ground. What happens to that baby then? Who takes care of her when you can't get out of bed? When your body just says no more? You got to find balance, honey. Gotta take care of yourself so you can take care of her. Rachel nodded, but they both knew she didn't have that luxury. Taking care of herself was a privilege she couldn't afford. Balance was for people who had margin, who had space, who had room to breathe. Rachel had none of those things. Rachel had survival, and that was all. Her evening shift was busy. Tuesday night was always busy at Joe's Diner. Truckers rolled in off Route 66, the old highway that ran like a vein through the heart of America. The Mother Road, the highway that built a nation and now carried its remnants. Men who'd been driving for days, who had hundreds of miles still to go, who just wanted hot food and strong coffee and maybe a kind word from someone who didn't want anything from them except their order. Rachel woke to a sound like thunder, deep, rumbling, shaking the windows in their frames, making the cheap glass rattle, making the whole building vibrate like it was alive. She opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, trying to place it, trying to make sense of a sound that didn't belong in this neighborhood, in this world. Then she realized what it was. Engines, motorcycle engines, not one, not two, many, the sound building, growing, getting louder. She rushed to the window and looked out. Her street was lined with motorcycles, not 10 or 20, not even 50, hundreds of them, chrome gleaming in the early morning light like a river of metal, black vests, the skull logo with wings on every single back, bikers standing in perfect formation like soldiers at attention, like an army assembled for war, but silent, completely silent except for the rumbling of their engines. A sound that felt like it came from the earth itself, from something primal, something powerful, something that couldn't be ignored. Oh my God, Rachel whispered it to herself. Her hand went to her mouth. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat, could taste copper fear on her tongue. Emma ran into the room in her pajamas, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. The kind of look children get when something extraordinary happens, but they don't know if it's good or bad. Mommy, why are there so many motorcycles? What's happening? Are we in trouble? Rachel had no answer. No words. No explanation that would make sense to a 6-year-old. Hell, no explanation that made sense to her. She threw on clothes with shaking hands, her fingers fumbling with buttons and zippers, rushed outside with Emma clinging to her side, small fingers digging into Rachel's legs, seeking safety, seeking reassurance Rachel wasn't sure she could provide. The entire neighborhood had come out, but they weren't curious, weren't excited, weren't wondering what was happening. They were terrified, pure primal terror written on every face. Windows slammed shut up and down the street. The sound of locks clicking. Deadbolts sliding home. Parents pulled children inside with rough urgency. Mothers screaming for kids to get in the house right now. Fathers positioning themselves in doorways like human shields. Mrs. Tucker stood on her porch with her phone pressed to her ear, her voice high and tight with fear. Yes, police. There's a gang on our street, South Maple Avenue. Please hurry. They're everywhere. There must be 100 of them. Maybe more. They're just standing there. I don't know what they want, but we need help. Now. We need help now. Mr. Dawson ran toward Rachel, his face red with anger that barely masked fear. Behind him, a crowd was forming. 20 neighbors, 30, 40, all looking at Rachel like she'd brought the devil himself to their doorstep. Like she'd invited catastrophe into their lives. Like she'd betrayed every single one of them. Rachel, what did you do? What the hell did you do? His voice was loud enough to carry down the whole block. Loud enough that people 3 streets over could probably hear him. Loud enough to wake anyone still sleeping. Loud enough to announce to the world that something terrible was happening and it was Rachel's fault. Why are they here? You brought a gang to our street. Our kids live here. My kids live here. Do you understand what you've done? Do you have any idea what you've brought to this neighborhood? Other voices joined in, angry, scared, desperate, a chorus of accusation and fear. What were you thinking? How could you do this to us? We trusted you. I told you, Mrs. Tucker shouted from her porch, her voice cracking. I warned you. I said that kindness would get you hurt. I said those people were dangerous, but you didn't listen. You never listen. Get them out of here, someone else screamed. Get them away from our children. The crowd pressed closer, tighter, more threatening with each step. Faces Rachel had known for years. People who'd waved hello, who'd borrowed sugar and returned it with cookies, who'd helped carry groceries when her car was working, who'd watched Emma ride her bike, who'd been neighbors in the real sense of the word. People who'd meant something to her, who she'd meant something to. Now they looked at her with fear and something worse. Betrayal, disgust, hatred even. Like she'd committed an unforgivable sin. Like she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Emma started crying, sobbing, her small body shaking. Mommy, I'm scared. Why are they yelling? What did you do? Are the bad men going to hurt us? Rachel pulled her close, wrapped her arms around her daughter's trembling body, her own hands shaking just as badly. It's okay, baby. It's going to be okay. Mommy's here. I won't let anything happen to you. But she didn't know if that was true. Didn't know if she could keep that promise. Didn't know what was happening or what it meant or whether she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Then Cole stepped forward from the line of bikers. He raised his hands, palms out. The universal gesture of peace, of non-aggression. The gesture of someone trying to calm a frightened animal. And that's what the crowd was. A frightened animal. Backed into a corner. Dangerous in its fear. Folks were not here to cause trouble. Nobody's in danger. Nobody's going to get hurt. His voice was calm, steady, like a man who'd done this before. Like a man who understood fear and knew how to talk to it. But it only seemed to make things worse. Made the crowd angrier. Made them feel patronized. Lied to. Mr. Dawson stepped forward, chest out, shoulders squared. A man trying to be brave when everything in him screamed run. Then why are you here? What do you want? Why did you bring an army to our street? We're here to help one of your own. Cole's voice remained calm, patient, like he was explaining something simple to a child. Help you expect us to believe that? A woman shouted from the crowd, her voice breaking with hysteria. You're Hell's Angels. We know what you are. We know what you do. You're criminals, murderers, drug dealers. Get out of our neighborhood. Get away from our children. Cole didn't flinch, didn't react to the accusations, didn't defend himself or his brothers, just waited, let the fear play out, let the accusations exhaust themselves. Then he spoke again, quiet, certain. Rachel Brennan saved a life 2 nights ago. She used her last $8 to help a stranger having a heart attack at a gas station on Peoria. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care. She just saw a human being who needed help. And she helped, while other people walked past, while other people told her not to get involved, while other people said we were too dangerous to help. She helped anyway. Silence rippled through the crowd. People looked at each other, confused, uncertain, not sure whether to believe him, not sure what this meant. Now we're here to save hers. A trailer truck pulled up behind the motorcycles. Big, industrial, the kind that carries serious cargo. The crowd shifted nervously, murmurs spreading, speculation building. Bikers started unloading boxes, moving with purpose, with coordination, like a military operation, like they'd done this before, like they knew exactly what they were doing. Cole turned back to the neighbors, his voice louder now. Carrying authority, my name is Cole Davidson. I'm a volunteer with Lily's Foundation. We're a nonprofit organization that helps struggling families. We've been doing this work for 20 years, nonprofit. Someone muttered, Hell's Angels run a nonprofit. That's bullshit. That's a cover. That's how they launder money. The voice was skeptical, hostile, representative of what most of them were thinking. Cole continued like he hadn't heard the interruption, or like he'd heard it 1,000 times before and it didn't matter anymore. Vic Garrett, the man Rachel saved, founded Lily's Foundation after his 7-year-old daughter died of leukemia. They couldn't afford the treatments fast enough. The insurance company denied coverage, said it was experimental, said it wasn't medically necessary, said 1,000 things that all meant the same thing: your daughter is going to die and we're not going to help. By the time Vic sold everything he owned, mortgaged his house, borrowed from everyone he knew, by the time he got the money together, it was too late. His daughter died. And Vic made a promise at her grave. Anyone who shows real kindness when they have nothing, anyone who helps someone else when it costs them everything, he helps them. He helps them the way he wishes someone had helped his family, the way he wishes someone had helped Lily. Cole paused, letting that sink in, letting the story do its work, letting them understand. We've helped over 3,000 families in 20 years. We pay medical bills so kids don't die like Lily did. We prevent evictions so families don't end up on the street. We fix cars so single mothers can get to work. We pay for groceries so children don't go to bed hungry. We give people a second chance when the world's given up on them, when the system has failed them, when there's nowhere else to turn. That's what we do. That's who we are, not what you think, not what the news says, not what the stereotypes tell you. We're people who help people. That's all. That's everything. The crowd was quiet now, still skeptical, still wary, but listening, really listening. Mr. Dawson's face changed. Something clicked behind his eyes. A memory surfacing, a connection being made. Wait a minute. Lily's Foundation. He stepped forward, his anger draining away, replaced by something else. Recognition, disbelief. You helped my brother in Wichita, Michael Dawson, veteran with PTSD from Iraq. 2 tours, came back different, couldn't hold a job, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop seeing his friends die. Started drinking, started using, lost everything. His wife left, took the kids. He was living under a bridge when you found him. You paid for his therapy sessions, 6 months of intensive treatment, paid for rehab, paid for job training, got him into transitional housing. He's sober now, 2 years clean, has an apartment, has his life back, has his kids back. You saved his life. You saved my brother's life. Cole nodded. Yes, sir, we did. Michael's doing good work now. He volunteers with us, helps other veterans, pays it forward. A woman in the crowd gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes went wide with recognition. Oh my God, you paid for my daughter's heart surgery 2 years ago. Sarah had a hole in her heart, a big one. She was dying. Insurance wouldn't cover it. Said she was too high risk. Said the surgery was too expensive. Said we should make her comfortable. Make her comfortable meant let her die. You paid the whole $70,000. Just wrote a check. Didn't ask for anything back. Didn't want publicity. Didn't want recognition. Just helped. Sarah's alive because of you. My baby girl is alive because of you. She started crying, sobbing, her whole body shaking with the weight of gratitude too big for words. An elderly man pushed through the crowd, white hair, stooped shoulders, moving slowly, a cane in one hand. He was crying too, tears running down his weathered face into his beard. You saved my wife's home from foreclosure. She's got Alzheimer's. Doesn't even know where she is most days. I couldn't work and take care of her. Couldn't pay the mortgage. Bank was going to foreclose. Put us on the street. You paid 6 months of mortgage payments. Gave me time to figure things out. Time to get her into a care facility. Time to sell the house properly instead of losing it. My wife is safe now, in a good place, where people take care of her. Because you gave me time. Because you helped when no one else would. More voices, more stories, the dam breaking. You helped my grandson, paid for his chemotherapy. You paid for my mother's medication, 3 years of heart medication. You fixed my roof after the tornado. I had no insurance, no money. You just showed up and fixed it. You bought school supplies for my kids, backpacks and books and everything they needed. You paid my rent when I lost my job. 3 months. Kept me from being evicted. The stories kept coming, one after another. A chorus of gratitude, a litany of miracles. Small miracles. Everyday miracles, the kind that don't make the news but change everything for the people they touch. The atmosphere shifted like a wind changing direction. Fear turned to understanding. Anger melted into something else. Shame, maybe. Guilt, certainly. Wonder at how wrong they'd been, how completely they'd misjudged. Mrs. Tucker's hand covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy on us all. We judged you all wrong. We saw the jackets and the motorcycles and the tattoos, and we decided who you were. We didn't look deeper, didn't ask questions, didn't give you a chance. We just believed what we'd been told, believed the worst, chose fear over truth. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Then Vic stepped out of the truck. He moved slowly, carefully, still recovering, still healing. The crowd parted like water, like the Red Sea. People stepped back not out of fear now, but respect. Awe even. Here was a man who'd turned his grief into grace, his pain into purpose, his loss into love. Vic walked until he stood in front of Rachel. Then he turned to face the neighbors. Every eye on the street was on him. Every person waiting, listening, understanding that this moment mattered. I get it. His voice was deep, gravelly. The voice of a man who'd lived hard and earned every scar, every line on his face, every gray hair in his beard. You saw the jackets, the bikes, the tattoos, the reputation, everything you've been told to fear, everything society has taught you means danger. You got scared. That's human nature. That's survival instinct. That's what happens when you have been taught your whole life that people who look like us are the enemy. I don't blame you for that. I understand it. I've lived it. I know what people think when they see us. I know what crosses the street when we walk by. I know what locks the door when we pull up. He pointed to Rachel, his hand steady, his finger certain. But this woman right here, she didn't see any of that. She saw a man dying on a gas station parking lot, alone at night, abandoned, and she used her last $8, her daughter's breakfast money, everything she had in the world, to save my life. Complete silence. You could hear the wind moving through the trees, could hear breathing, could hear hearts beating, could hear the world holding its breath. She didn't know I run a foundation, didn't know I've helped thousands of families, didn't know I had money or resources or brothers who would come, didn't know anything except that a human being needed help. A stranger, a person she'd been told her whole life to fear, to avoid, to leave alone. And she gave everything she had. Not because she'd get something back, not because it would benefit her, but because it was right, because it was human, because it was what we were supposed to do for each other. Vic's voice cracked slightly, emotion breaking through, raw and real and impossible to fake. Most people walked past me that night. Dozens of people. Cars drove by. A gas station attendant told her to leave me alone. Said I was probably high, probably deserved whatever happened. An old trucker physically tried to pull her away, told her she had a kid to think about, told her to mind her own business, told her people like me weren't worth saving. But Rachel Brennan saw past all that, saw past the jacket and the bike and the tattoos and the reputation, saw a person, just a person who needed help, and she helped. That's it. That's everything. He looked at the crowd, made eye contact with individual people, made it personal, made it real. That's the world I'm trying to build, where people see people, not stereotypes, not assumptions, not categories and labels and tribes, just human beings trying to survive, trying to do the best they can, trying to be good to each other. That's what Lily would have wanted. That's what she believed. That's why I do this work. Not for publicity, not for recognition, not to make myself feel good, but because my daughter died and I couldn't save her, and I'll be damned if I let other people die when I can help, when I have resources, when I can make a difference. Mr. Williams stepped forward. He was 70 years old, black, had lived on this street for 40 years, longer than anyone, had seen the neighborhood change and decline and struggle, had buried friends and dreams here. Tears ran down his weathered face, caught in the lines, dripped from his chin. I judged you by your jacket, not your heart. By your appearance, not your actions. By my fear, not the truth. I was wrong. I'm deeply, deeply sorry. I should have known better. I've been judged my whole life by the color of my skin, prejudged, assumed about, feared. I should know better than to do that to someone else. But I did it anyway. Fear makes us small, makes us cruel, makes us forget our own humanity. I'm sorry. He extended his hand, weathered and worn, honest and humble. Vic shook it firmly, held it. We all make mistakes, sir. That's what makes us human. What matters is what we do next. Whether we learn, whether we change, whether we choose to be better. One by one, neighbors approached, apologizing, shaking hands, hugging, crying. The wall of fear crumbled like it had never been solid at all, like it was always just smoke and mirrors and assumptions. One by one, they saw, really saw, understood, changed. Mr. Dawson walked up to Rachel. His eyes were wet, his voice breaking. I yelled at you, called you irresponsible, said you endangered the neighborhood, said you put my kids at risk. But you were braver than all of us, smarter than all of us, better than all of us. You saw past what we couldn't see past. You chose kindness when we chose fear. You helped when we would have walked away. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Mrs. Tucker came down from her porch, wrapped Rachel in a hug, held her tight, tight enough that Rachel could feel her shaking, could feel her tears soaking through Rachel's shirt. Baby, you showed this old woman that it's never too late to change, never too late to see people for who they really are, instead of who we assume they are. Never too late to choose love over fear. You're a better person than I'll ever be, than any of us will ever be. Thank you. Thank you for showing us the way. Rachel couldn't speak, couldn't find words. Tears poured down her face. Emma clung to her leg, confused, but sensing something important was happening. Something that mattered. Something that changed things. Vic turned back to Rachel. He pulled an envelope from his vest pocket. Plain white. Standard business size. But heavy. Thick. Important. Handed it to her with both hands like it was something sacred. Something precious. You gave me a second chance at life. Let me give you one. Rachel opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Had to try twice to get it open. Inside was a check. She stared at the numbers, trying to make sense of them, trying to make them real, trying to believe what she was seeing. $25,000. The world tilted. Everything went sideways. Rachel's knees went weak. The ground felt unstable, like standing on a boat, like standing on something that moved. Cole caught her elbow, steadied her, kept her upright. For rent, medical bills, your car, whatever you need, whatever Emma needs, whatever makes your life easier, better, safer. Vic's voice was gentle now, soft, like talking to something fragile that might break. But there's more, a lot more. He pulled out a second envelope. This one had official letterhead. Lily's Foundation printed across the top in green ink. Professional, real, legitimate. We're offering you a job. Community Outreach Coordinator. It's a full-time position. Salary is $52,000 a year. Full health benefits, dental, vision, life insurance, everything. Retirement plan, paid vacation, sick days, everything a real job should have. Everything you deserve. You start in 2 weeks. That gives you time to quit your other jobs. Time to get settled. Time to catch your breath. Rachel stared at the letter. The words swam in front of her eyes, blurred, reformed, blurred again. She couldn't process it, couldn't make it real, couldn't believe that things like this happen to people like her. $52,000 a year, more than she made at both jobs combined, more than she'd ever imagined making, more than seemed possible. Health insurance, Emma's inhaler covered, doctor visits covered, everything covered. Her legs gave out, collapsed. She dropped to her knees on the pavement. The check and the letter clutched in her hands. Great sobs racked her body. All the fear, all the struggle, all the nights wondering how she'd pay rent or buy food or afford Emma's medicine. All the mornings waking up exhausted. All the days pushing through pain. All the choices between impossible things. All of it came pouring out. Years of it, a lifetime of it. Grief for what had been. Relief for what was ending. Hope for what was beginning. Emma knelt beside her, small hands on her mother's shaking shoulders. Mommy, why are you crying? Are you sad? Did the bad men hurt you? Happy tears, baby. These are happy tears, the best tears, the kind you cry when something wonderful happens. But Emma looked scared. Had never seen her mother cry like this. Had never seen emotion this big, this overwhelming. The neighbors erupted. Applause rolled down the street. Genuine, heartfelt, celebrating. Engines revved. The bikers joining in. A thunderous celebration that echoed off the houses, bounced between buildings, filled the air with sound and awe and hope. Some people were crying too. Even the men. Even Mr. Dawson, who'd been so angry 5 minutes ago. Even Mr. Williams, who'd seen so much in his 70 years. Even Mrs. Tucker, who'd been so certain she was right. Vic knelt down beside Rachel. His knees cracked. Arthritis, age, years of riding taking their toll. He grimaced but didn't stop, didn't let pain stop him. He pulled out a car key, Honda logo on the fob. One more thing. We bought your Honda from the impound lot, had it fully repaired. New transmission, new tires, oil change, tune-up, everything. It runs like new, better than new. It's around the corner, waiting for you. Rachel looked up at him. Her face was streaked with tears, Mascara running, snot running, hair wild. She looked like a mess and she didn't care, couldn't care, was too overwhelmed to care about anything except this moment, this impossible, beautiful moment. Why are you doing all this? Why me? I'm nobody. I'm nothing special. I just helped. That's all. Anyone would have done the same. Vic's eyes glisten, tears threatening, held back but barely. No, they wouldn't have. You did. That's what makes you special. And I'm doing this because 20 years ago, my daughter died because I didn't have enough money. Couldn't afford the treatment she needed. Couldn't save her. I swore on her grave I'd never let that happen to another family. Not if I could help it. Not if I had resources. Not if I could make a difference. You saved my life with your last $8. Didn't hesitate. Didn't ask what was in it for you. Didn't even ask my name. That kind of person, that's exactly who the world needs more of. That's exactly who I've been looking for. That's exactly who Lily would have wanted me to help. He put his hand on her shoulder, squeezed gently. You're not nobody, Rachel. You're exactly the kind of somebody this world needs. I'm nobody special. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Broken. Raw. You're wrong. You're exactly the kind of special this world is running out of. The kind that helps without expecting reward. The kind that sees people instead of categories. The kind that chooses kindness over convenience. That's rare. That's precious. That's worth everything. Cole stepped forward. There's more, Rachel. You need to see this. You need to see all of it. He led her to the trailer. Bikers had opened the back. Inside was furniture. Real furniture. New furniture. The kind you see in stores and dream about but never think you'll own. A real couch with cushions that weren't torn or stained or worn through to the springs. A kitchen table with matching chairs. Matching. Like a set. Like something from a catalog. A bed for Emma. Not a mattress on the floor. Not a hand-me-down frame from a thrift store. But an actual bed with a frame and a headboard and everything. White, clean, new, beautiful. Groceries filled boxes. Real food. Name brand food. Cereal that didn't taste like cardboard. Fresh milk. Bread. Peanut butter. Jelly. Fruits. Bananas. Oranges. Chicken. Ground beef. Pasta. Sauce. Everything she'd been doing without. Everything she'd been rationing. Everything she'd been dreaming about. Toys for Emma. Not one or two things. Boxes of things. Dolls, blocks, books, colored pencils and coloring books. Puzzles, games, everything a child should have. Everything Emma deserved. School supplies. A backpack. Not a hand-me-down. Not a stain-torn thing from the thrift store. But new, with unicorns on it. Pink and purple. Exactly what a 6-year-old girl would love. Notebooks, pencils, crayons, scissors, glue. Everything she'd need for school. Everything Rachel had been worrying about buying. Clothes. New clothes that didn't come from the thrift store or the clearance rack or hand-me-down bags. Jeans that fit, shirts without holes, a winter coat, boots, everything. Sizes for now and sizes for later because kids grow and that costs money, and Vic understood that. Rachel laughed through her tears, a sound that was half sob, half joy. It was too much. It wasn't possible. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Didn't happen in real life. Only in stories. Only in movies. Only in dreams. This is too much. It's too much. I can't accept all this. It's not enough. Vic stood beside her. It's not nearly enough. But it's a start. It's what we can do today. Tomorrow we do more. Next week we do more. We keep doing more until your life is stable. Until you can breathe. Until you can sleep without worrying. Until Emma can grow up the way she deserves to grow up. Safe, fed, healthy. That's what we do. That's who we are. The bikers began unloading, organized, efficient, like they'd done this 1,000 times before, because they had. And then something beautiful happened, something that restored faith in humanity, in community, in the possibility that people could change. The neighbors who'd been so terrified 10 minutes ago stepped forward to help, without being asked, without hesitation. Just stepped forward and started helping, started carrying boxes, started being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Mr. Dawson grabbed a box of food. "Where do you want this, Rachel? Kitchen? I'll take it up." Mrs. Tucker directed traffic like a general. "Careful with that bed frame. Don't scratch it on the doorway. Turn it sideways. There you go." The young mother who'd locked her kids inside and called them dangerous now had her children helping carry Emma's toys. Her daughter, maybe 8 years old, carried a doll to Emma, handed it to her with a shy smile. "This is for you. I hope you like it." Emma took it with wide eyes, wonder and joy mixing on her small face. "Thank you. She's beautiful." The entire street came together, bikers and neighbors working side by side, black and white, young and old. People who'd been strangers or even enemies 10 minutes ago, now working together, helping together, being human together, carrying furniture up narrow stairs, arranging everything in Rachel's small apartment. Fear and prejudice transformed into something else. Community, love, connection, the way it was supposed to be, the way it could be when people chose to see each other, really see each other. Vic stood beside Rachel watching, a small smile on his weathered face. "Tomorrow we start planning the community center, right here, in this neighborhood, where it's needed most." Rachel looked at him, still overwhelmed, still processing. Community center. Right here. This neighborhood needs it. This community deserves it. A place where people can get job training, where families can get food when they're struggling, where kids can go after school so they're safe and supervised and learning, where people can get medical care they can afford, where the community can come together, where people can help each other, where what happened here today can happen every day. He pulled out another set of papers, blueprints, architectural drawings, professional, detailed, real. Rachel unfolded them with trembling hands, spread them out on the hood of someone's car. At the top, in bold letters, Brennan House. The words hit her like a physical blow, made her step back, made her shake her head. "No, no, you can't. You can't do that." Rachel shook her head, voice breaking. "I'm nobody. I don't deserve that. My name on a building, that's for important people, for heroes, for people who matter, not for me." Vic's voice was firm, final. "I can, and I am. It's your house now, named after you, named after the woman who saw a dying man and helped when everyone else walked past, named after the mother who used her last $8 to save a stranger, named after the person who embodies everything this foundation stands for. Kindness, compassion, humanity. That's you, Rachel. That's who you are. That's why your name goes on the building. Because you showed me that kindness still exists in this world. Because you proved that people can still choose to help even when it costs them everything. That deserves to be remembered, deserves to be honored, deserves to have a building with your name on it so everyone who comes there knows why it exists. Because one woman made one choice. Because kindness matters. Because people matter. Because we're all in this together." Rachel couldn't speak, could barely breathe. The blueprints showed everything. Job training center, computer lab, food bank, medical clinic, meeting rooms, after-school programs, a commercial kitchen, offices, everything a community center should be. Everything this neighborhood needed, and her name on it. Brennan House. Like she mattered. Like she'd done something important. By noon, Rachel's apartment looked completely different, looked like a different place, looked like somewhere people actually lived instead of just survived. The old sagging couch that leaked stuffing was gone, replaced by something sturdy and clean and comfortable. The wobbly kitchen table with mismatched chairs became a solid wooden dining set that didn't shake when you leaned on it. Emma's mattress on the floor was now a real bed with fresh sheets that smelled like lavender and pillows that weren't flat. Rachel stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed, overcome, unable to process the transformation. Emma ran from room to room, eyes wide with wonder, with joy, with the kind of happiness children should feel all the time. Mommy, look, I have a real desk and books and toys, and my bed is so soft. Is this real? Is this really ours? Can we keep it? Yes, baby. It's real. It's ours. We can keep it. All of it. Rachel could barely get the words out. Vic sat down on the new couch and patted the spot beside him. Leather. Real leather. Soft, expensive. More comfortable than anything Rachel had ever owned. Sit. Let's talk about the job. About what we need from you. About what this all means. Rachel sat. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Wouldn't be still. I'll do anything. I just want to help people. Want to give back. Want to deserve this. You already deserve it, but I know what you mean. And you're perfect for this work. That's why I chose you. He pulled out a folder. Inside were applications. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each one a person, a story, a family in crisis, a human being hoping for help. We get requests every month, every week really. Single mothers who can't afford rent, veterans who need medical care, families crushed by hospital bills, kids who need school supplies, elderly people who can't afford medication, people who fell through every other crack in the system, people who have nowhere else to turn. I need someone who understands what that feels like, someone who's been there, someone who can look at an application and see the person behind it, see the desperation, see the hope, see the humanity, not just numbers, not just need, but people, real people. Can you do that? Rachel nodded. That's me. I know what it feels like to count every dollar, to choose between food and medicine, to wonder if tomorrow is the day you lose everything. I know what it feels like to be desperate, to have nowhere to turn, to need help and not know where to find it. That's been my life for 3 years. That pain, that struggle, I understand it in my bones. Vic smiled. Exactly, your pain, your struggle. That's not baggage, Rachel. That's your qualification, your superpower, because you know exactly what these people are going through. You've lived it. You understand it. You can look at them and say, I know, I've been there. I understand. And they'll believe you because it'll be true. He showed her the blueprints again, pointed to different sections, Brennan House, Job Training Center, Food Bank, Medical Clinic, after-school programs for kids like Emma. All of it right here in this neighborhood. This is incredible. This is going to change lives. Rachel's voice was full of wonder. It's necessary. This neighborhood needs it. You need it. Emma needs it. Every family on this street needs it. And you're going to help me build it, help me design it, help me staff it, help me run it. This is your house, Rachel, your community center, your legacy. You're going to change this neighborhood, change this city, change lives, one family at a time. When do I start? 2 weeks. That gives you time to quit your other jobs, time to get settled, time to let Emma adjust to everything that's changed, time to breathe. He pulled out a benefits packet. Thick, official, real. Health insurance starts on day 1, covers everything, including Emma's asthma medication. All of it. Completely. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. Her hand went to her chest. Completely no copays, no deductibles, no fighting with insurance companies about what's covered. Completely. No copays, no deductibles, no denials, no fighting. Your daughter will never go without her inhaler again. You'll never have to choose between her medicine and groceries. Never have to ration puffs. Never have to watch her struggle to breathe because you can't afford what she needs. That's over. Done. Forever. She broke down sobbing again, different than before. This was relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. The weight of 3 years lifting. The constant fear ending. The knowledge that Emma would be okay, would be safe, would be healthy. Vic waited patiently until she could breathe again. Handed her tissues, sat quietly while she cried, understanding that this was necessary, that some things need tears. There's one more thing. He pulled out a vest, not a Hell's Angels vest. That would have been weird, wrong, but a volunteer vest for Lily's foundation. The crown with wings embroidered on the back, green and white, clean, new, with a name tag that said Rachel Brennan, Community Outreach Coordinator. You're one of us now, part of the family, part of something bigger than yourself, part of a community that chooses kindness, that helps people, that makes the world better one person at a time. Rachel took the vest with shaking hands, put it on, looked at herself in the mirror hanging on the wall. The mirror that was new, that didn't have cracks or spots or age. She barely recognized herself, but in a good way. For the first time in years, she looked like someone who had hope, who had a future, who mattered. Your first job starts right now, today, this minute. Find someone in this neighborhood who needs help. Use those same instincts that saved me. Look around. See who's struggling. See who needs what we can provide. That's your job. That's what you do. You see people, you help them. That's it. That's everything. Rachel thought for only a second. Didn't even need to think, really. Mrs. Caldwell, 3 doors down. She's 80, can't afford her heart medication. I've seen her cutting pills in half to make them last, trying to stretch 30 days of medicine into 60, risking her life to save money she doesn't have. Vic smiled, proud, approving. Then let's go help her right now, together. I'll show you how this works. How we do this, then you'll do it yourself. You'll be amazing at it. I already know. They walked to Mrs. Caldwell's apartment. Rachel, Vic, and Cole. A small procession, a mission of kindness. Rachel knocked, gentle, respectful. Mrs. Caldwell opened the door slowly, surprised to see people on her doorstep. Surprised to see Rachel with these men, these strangers. She was tiny, frail, white hair pulled back in a bun, skin like paper, eyes that had seen decades, a body that was giving out despite her will to keep going. Rachel, what's going on, dear? Is everything all right? Who are these men? Mrs. Caldwell, I'd like you to meet some friends. This is Vic and Cole. They're from Lily's foundation. We're here to help. Can we come in? They sat in Mrs. Caldwell's small living room. The furniture was old but clean, cared for, loved. Photos of grandchildren covered every surface. A lifetime of family, of love, of memories. Vic explained Lily's foundation while the elderly woman listened, tears forming in her eyes, hands shaking, not from age, from emotion, from hope she'd stopped letting herself feel. Ma'am, what do you need most right now? What keeps you up at night? What worries you? Mrs. Caldwell's voice shook, broke. My heart medication. I can't afford it anymore. The prescription costs $240 a month. My Social Security is $850. After rent and utilities and food, there's nothing left. I've been cutting the pills in half, taking half a dose, trying to make them last, but I'm almost out, and I know what happens when I run out. My heart will give up, and I'll die, alone in this apartment, and probably nobody will find me for days. The words hung in the air, the reality of poverty, of age, of a system that fails its most vulnerable. Vic pulled out his phone and made a call. Quick, efficient, no hesitation. We'll have your prescription filled and delivered today. Full 3 month supply, no cost to you, and we'll set up automatic refills. You'll never run out again. Never have to cut pills, never have to choose between medicine and food, never have to worry about this again. Mrs. Caldwell grabbed Rachel's hand, held it tight, desperate, grateful. You did this for me. You brought them here. Why? Why would you do this for me? Rachel's voice was soft, full of emotion. Because you're my neighbor. Because you need help. Because that's what we do for each other. That's what community means. You've been here for 40 years. You've helped people. Now we help you. We did this together. Mrs. Caldwell wept, really wept, years of fear and worry pouring out. Rachel held her hand and cried with her. Two women, different generations, same humanity, same need for kindness. As they left, Rachel looked back at the elderly woman's grateful face, saw peace there, saw relief, saw hope. This is the best job I'll ever have. I know, Vic replied, because you understand what it means to need help, what it feels like to be desperate, what it takes to ask, what it means to receive. And now you get to be the person who shows up, who helps, who changes lives. That's everything. That's the whole job. See people, help them, that's it. They walked back to Rachel's apartment where the celebration continued. Neighbors laughed, bikers shared stories, kids played in the street without fear. Emma rode her new bike in circles, blonde hair flying behind her smile so big it looked like it might break her face. Mr. Dawson was grilling hamburgers on a portable grill someone had brought. The smell filling the street. Real food, community food, celebration food. Mrs. Tucker was organizing side dishes like she'd done it 1,000 times. Potato salad, coleslaw, baked beans, everyone contributing. Everyone together. The young mother was chatting with a female biker about motorcycle safety gear, about prejudice, about change, about second chances. The street looked different now, felt different, like something had fundamentally changed in the molecules of the air itself. Like the neighborhood had been one thing this morning and was something else now. Something better, something more hopeful. Vic pulled Rachel aside one more time, pointed to the vacant lot at the end of the block. The lot that had been empty for years, that had accumulated trash and weeds and broken dreams. Construction starts next month. Brennan House, 6 months to build, maybe 7. You're going to help me design every detail, choose the colors, pick the furniture, hire the staff, decide what programs we offer, what services we provide, because this is your house, your community center, your vision, your chance to change the world one family at a time, one person at a time, one choice at a time. Rachel looked at Emma playing with the other children, laughing, carefree, not worried about breakfast or whether they'd have a place to sleep next month or whether mommy would come home safe or any of the 1,000 fears that had defined her young life. And for the first time in 3 years, since the day Emma's father walked out, since the day Rachel became the only thing standing between her daughter and the street, Rachel Brennan didn't worry about tomorrow. Because tomorrow was going to be okay. Actually, it was going to be better than okay. It was going to be beautiful. The day after the motorcycles came, Rachel woke up in a bed that didn't creak. She opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, half convinced she had dreamed it all. That she'd wake up and find herself back in the old reality. The one where survival was a daily battle, where every dollar mattered, where tomorrow was always uncertain. But the ceiling was different, freshly painted. No water stains spreading like countries on a map. No cracks spiderwebbing across the plaster. No evidence of neglect and decay and poverty seeping through. It was real. All of it. The impossible had happened. She got up and walked to Emma's room, her bare feet silent on carpet that wasn't worn through. Emma slept in an actual bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and books the new unicorn comforter pulled up to her chin. Her breathing was easy, unlabored. The inhaler on her nightstand full. No more rationing, no more counting puffs, No more choosing between breathing and eating. The morning light came through new curtains, clean and white, filtering the harsh sunlight into something soft, something gentle. Everything smelled clean, new, like possibility. Rachel made breakfast in a kitchen stocked with food. Real food. More food than she'd seen in one place in 3 years. Cereal that wasn't generic. Fresh milk that would last all week. Eggs, bread, butter, jam, coffee. Real coffee, not the cheap instant kind that tasted like dirt. She made Emma pancakes with syrup, with butter, with fresh strawberries from the refrigerator that actually kept things cold. Emma came padding out in new pajamas that fit, that weren't too small or worn thin or embarrassing. Her eyes went wide when she saw the plate, like she still couldn't quite believe this was real, that this was their life now. Pancakes with strawberries on a Wednesday. The wonder in her voice broke Rachel's heart and healed it at the same time. Special breakfast, baby. Every day can be special now. Emma climbed into her chair, the sturdy one that didn't wobble. She took a bite and smiled with her whole face. Pure joy. Uncomplicated happiness. The kind children should feel every morning. These are the best pancakes ever, Mommy. You're the best mommy in the whole world. Rachel sat across from her watching, actually eating her own breakfast for the first time in months, years maybe, fighting back tears of gratitude so overwhelming she could barely breathe. This was what normal felt like. This was what other families had every day and took for granted. And for the first time in 3 years, Rachel had it too. Week 1 was a blur of endings and beginnings. Rachel gave notice at the laundromat, walked into Janet's office, and said the words she'd been dreaming of for years. I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. I've accepted another position. Janet barely looked up from her paperwork. Didn't ask where Rachel was going. Didn't thank her for 5 years of showing up on time every single day. Didn't acknowledge that Rachel had been a good employee, a reliable one. Someone who'd never called in sick, never complained, never caused problems. Your choice. We'll find someone else. Clean out your locker by Friday. That was it. 5 years dismissed in 2 sentences. No goodbye, no good luck, no recognition that Rachel had folded 10 million pieces of clothing and never once stolen or broke something or showed up drunk or did any of the 1,000 things other employees had done. But Rachel didn't care. Couldn't care. She was free. Free from the heat and the monotony and Janet's constant criticism. Free from minimum wage and aching hands and the smell of other people's lives embedded in fabric. Louise at the diner was different. When Rachel told her she was leaving, the older woman's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Rachel into the back room away from customers and hugged her so tight Rachel could barely breathe. You earned this, honey. You go help people, make the world a little better. Show them the kindness you showed me all these years, the patience when I was slow, the help when I was struggling, the friendship when I needed it. You're going to be amazing at this job, better than you know, better than they know because you understand. You've lived it. You know what struggle feels like, what desperation tastes like, what it means to need help and not know where to find it. Louise held Rachel at arm's length, studying her face like she was memorizing it. Don't forget where you came from, baby girl. Don't forget what struggle feels like. That pain, that's your gift now. That's what makes you perfect for this work. You can look someone in the eye and say, I know I've been there, I understand. And it'll be true. It'll be real. They'll feel it. And that'll make all the difference. Rachel promised she wouldn't forget. Promised she'd come back to visit. Promised she'd remember Louise in this diner and the woman who'd shown her kindness when kindness was rare. They hugged one more time, both crying, both knowing that some chapters end and new ones begin, and that's how life works. You don't stay in one place forever. You grow, you change, you move on. But you remember, you honor, you carry the people who mattered with you. Emma started at her new school across town, a better school, the kind with art classes and music programs and teachers who had time to actually teach instead of just managing chaos, the kind with computers and books and supplies and hope. Rachel drove her there in the Honda that ran smooth as silk, no weird noises, no fear. It would die in the middle of the road, no anxiety about whether they'd make it. Emma jumped out with her new backpack, the one with unicorns, the one that wasn't handed down or bought used or embarrassing. She waved goodbye and ran toward the building like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Like she knew somehow that everything was different now. Everything was better. Rachel watched her go and cried in the car for 10 minutes. Happy tears this time. Grateful tears. Relieved tears. The tears of a mother who'd been drowning and could finally breathe. Her first day at Lily's foundation came faster than she expected. Rachel drove to the office building on the north side of Tulsa, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. This was real. This was happening. She was about to start a real job with real benefits and real pay and real purpose. The building wasn't fancy, just a converted warehouse with a sign out front. Lily's Foundation in green letters. Simple, understated. But inside the walls were covered with photos, hundreds of them, thousands maybe. Families helped, children saved, lives changed, faces smiling, eyes hopeful, evidence that this work mattered, that people could be helped, that kindness created miracles. Cole met her at the door smiling, genuine warmth in his eyes. Welcome to the team, Rachel. Welcome home. Those words hit her harder than they should have. Welcome home. Like she belonged here. Like this was where she was meant to be. He showed her to her desk. It had a nameplate. Rachel Brennan, Community Outreach Coordinator. She ran her fingers over the letters, feeling the engraving, making it real, making it hers. This is real. She said it out loud, still not quite believing, still half expecting to wake up. It's real, and you're going to be great at it. Better than great. You're going to change lives, save lives, give people hope when they've run out of hope. That's what we do here. That's who we are. The office had 5 other coordinators. They introduced themselves one by one, and every single person had the same story. They'd been helped by Lily's Foundation first. A single father whose son had cancer. A woman who'd lost her home in a tornado. A veteran who'd been homeless. A mother whose husband died and left her with nothing. A teenager who'd aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Each one had taken the help they received and turned it into a mission to help others. Each one had transformed their pain into purpose, their struggle into strength, their need into service. We're all here for the same reason a woman named Patricia said. Someone gave us a second chance when we'd run out of chances. Someone saw us when we were invisible. Someone helped when everyone else walked past. Now we do that for other people. We pay it forward. We multiply the kindness. We prove that one person helping one person can change everything. Rachel's desk had a stack of applications, 43 of them, each one stapled together. Each one a person, a story, a family in crisis, a human being hoping for help, hoping someone would see them, would care, would respond. She opened the first file. Her hands shook. This was real work, real responsibility, real lives depending on her decisions. Nathan Briggs, 32 years old, Army veteran, Iraq War 2007, 2 tours, honorable discharge, living in his car for 3 months. PTSD diagnosed but untreated, unemployed for 8 months. No family, no support system, no hope. The application was handwritten in shaky letters, the writing of someone whose hands trembled, someone who struggled to hold a pen, someone who was barely holding on. At the bottom, just one sentence, one plea. I need a reason to keep going. 5 words, but they contained a universe of pain, of desperation, of someone on the edge looking down into the abyss. Rachel stared at those words for a long time. She remembered being in that place, Not the same place, not veteran with PTSD, but the same emotional territory. Not quite ready to give up, but not seeing a way forward either. Just existing, just surviving, waiting for something to change because you can't change it yourself. She picked up the phone and called the number on the application. It rang 4 times, 5, 6. She almost hung up. Then a voice answered, rough, suspicious, defeated. Yeah, is this Nathan Briggs who's asking? My name is Rachel Brennan. I'm with Lily's Foundation. I received your application. I'd like to meet with you. Talk about how we can help. Silence. Long enough that Rachel thought he'd hung up. Then his voice came back softer, more vulnerable. You actually read it, my application. I sent that 3 weeks ago. Figured nobody cared. Figured it went in the trash like everything else. I read it, every word, and I care. We care. Can you meet me tomorrow? There's a coffee shop on 11th Street. Do you know it? More silence than, yeah, I know it. What time? 10 in the morning. I'll be there. And Nathan, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for asking for help. That takes courage. More courage than most people understand. She hung up and sat there, her heart pounding. This was it. This was the work. Finding people like Nathan, people on the edge, people who needed someone to see them, to care, to help. Month 1 hit Rachel like a freight train in the best possible way. She met with Nathan Briggs at the coffee shop on 11th Street. He showed up 20 minutes late, unshaven, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed in days, maybe weeks. His hands shook when he held the coffee cup. His eyes darted around the room like he expected an attack. Like the world was enemy territory and everyone was a threat. Rachel saw herself in him. Not the military part, not the PTSD, but the desperation, the exhaustion, the sense that you're barely holding on and one more thing, just one more small thing will break you completely. Tell me what you need, Nate. She kept her voice soft, non-threatening, like approaching a wounded animal. He looked at her like he was trying to figure out if this was a trap, if she was real, if this moment would vanish like every other moment of hope had vanished. A place to sleep, a job, a reason to keep going. His voice was flat, empty, the voice of someone who'd said these words before and gotten nothing. The voice of someone who'd stopped believing in help. Rachel didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, didn't promise things she couldn't deliver, just looked him in the eye and said the words that would change his life. Okay, we can do that, all of it, starting today. She arranged transitional housing, a small studio apartment in a complex that worked with the foundation. Furnished, utilities included, 6 months guaranteed with possibility of extension, a place where he could sleep without fear, where he could shower, where he could be human again. She enrolled him in a job training program. Welding. The instructor was a veteran himself, understood PTSD, knew how to work with guys like Nathan, good money, union benefits, a real future instead of just survival. She connected him with VA counseling, a therapist who specialized in combat trauma, who knew what it meant to see friends die, to carry guilt, to wake up screaming, to feel like you left part of yourself in the desert and can't figure out how to get it back. Nathan looked at her like she'd just handed him a miracle, like she'd reached into the darkness and pulled him back into the light. Why are you doing this? You don't know me, don't know what I've done, what I've seen, what I dream about. Why would you help me? Because someone helped me when I had nothing. Because I know what it feels like to be desperate, to need help and not know where to find it. Because you deserve a chance. Not because you have earned it, not because you're perfect, but because you're human, because you're struggling, because asking for help took more courage than most people will ever understand. Nate showed up to the first day of welding training. Rachel got the call at noon. He had lasted 3 hours. Had a panic attack on the factory floor when someone dropped a metal pipe and it clanged against the concrete. The sound triggered something deep. Sent him back to Fallujah. to IEDs and gunfire and friends dying in explosions that turned humans into mist. He didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. Rachel called him, left voicemails, texted, nothing. Radio silence. The kind that meant he'd given up. The kind that meant he was drowning and had stopped fighting. She drove to his apartment, knocked for 10 minutes, pounded, called his name. Finally, he opened the door. He looked worse than before, much worse, like he'd aged 10 years in a week. I can't do this. I'm done. I'm fucking done. You should give it to someone who deserves it, someone who can actually make something of themselves, not a broken piece of shit who can't even handle a fucking welding class. You're not done. Rachel's voice was steel, firm, uncompromising. She pushed past him into the apartment. It was a mess. Trash everywhere, curtains drawn, darkness and depression thick enough to taste. The smell of someone who'd given up on everything, including basic hygiene. I gave you a chance and you're wasting it. You should give it to someone who deserves it. Nate sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying, silently. The way men cry when they've been taught their whole lives that tears are weakness. Rachel sat beside him. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just sat there in the darkness, in the smell, in the despair. Sometimes presence is more powerful than words. Sometimes just not leaving is the help someone needs. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft, real, true. A few weeks ago, I had $8 to my name, my daughter's breakfast money, everything I had in the world, and I used it to save a stranger dying in a gas station parking lot. You know why. Nate didn't answer, didn't move, but he was listening. She could tell. Because I believe people deserve help. Not because they've earned it, not because they're perfect, not because they've got their shit together, but because they're human, because they're struggling, because the world is hard and sometimes we all need someone to believe in us even when we can't believe in ourselves. She put her hand on his shoulder, felt him flinch but not pull away. I used my last $8 on a stranger I'd never met because I believed he deserved help. Now I'm using everything I've got to help you, not because you've proven yourself, not because you are perfect, not because you've got it all figured out, but because you deserve a chance, same as everyone else, same as me, same as that man I saved. We all deserve someone who won't give up on us. Why won't you give up on me? Nate's voice cracked, broke, raw with pain and confusion and desperate hope, because nobody gave up on me. And I'm not starting now, not with you, not with anyone. That's not who I am. That's not what this work is. We don't give up. We don't walk away. We show up. We stay. We believe even when you can't, especially when you can't. She set up more therapy, intensive VA counseling, PTSD treatment groups with other veterans, medication management, made sure Nate had everything he needed, not just the practical stuff, the emotional stuff, the stuff that actually heals. One more try. That's all I'm asking. One more shot at the training program. The instructor knows what happened. He's expecting you back. He understands. He's been there. He knows what it's like. If it doesn't work again, we'll find something else. But you don't get to quit. Not on my watch. Not when I know what you're capable of. Not when I can see the person you can become if you just hold on a little longer. Nate looked at her with wet eyes, red, exhausted, but something else there now. Something that looked like hope. Okay, one more try. Month 2 brought changes visible from space. Construction on Brennan House began. Rachel drove to the vacant lot at the end of her street every single day after work. Watched the foundation being poured. Watched the concrete trucks and the workers and the slow transformation of empty space into something real. Watched the walls going up brick by brick. Watched something impossible becoming actual. The neighbors watched too. The same neighbors who'd been terrified of the bikers 6 weeks ago. Now they brought water to the construction workers, brought cookies, asked questions, got involved, became part of the project instead of spectators, because this was their community center, their Brennan house, named after their neighbor who'd shown them all what kindness looked like. Nate showed up to welding training. Day 1, made it through. Day 2, made it through. Day 3, made it through. Made it a full week without a panic attack. Then 2 weeks. His hands steadied, his eyes cleared. The 1,000-yard stare faded a little. He started talking about the future like it was something that might actually happen instead of just empty words people say. Rachel visited him at the training center, watched him work. The instructor pulled her aside, a big man with a gray beard and eyes that had seen combat. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He's one of the best students I've ever had. Natural talent, good hands, steady, focused when he's not triggered. Give him time, and he'll be unstoppable. Month 3 hit like a thunderstorm rolling in off the plains. Sarah Whitmore showed up at the Lily's Foundation office without an appointment. Just walked in off the street looking like death itself. She was 24 years old but looked 40, pale, exhausted, desperate. The kind of desperation that comes from watching someone you love die slowly. Please, I need help. I don't know where else to turn. I've tried everything. My mom has stage 3 breast cancer. The treatment costs $80,000. Insurance won't cover it. They say it's experimental. They say she should try conventional treatment first, even though conventional treatment already failed. They say 1,000 things that all mean the same thing. We're going to let your mother die, and there's nothing you can do about it. I've tried GoFundMe, tried church fundraisers, tried everything. I'm out of options, out of time, out of hope. Rachel reviewed the application right there. Read every word, looked at the medical records Sarah had brought. Sarah's mother, Catherine Whitmore, was 48 years old. Breast cancer, aggressive, triple negative, the worst kind. Without treatment, 6 months to live. Maybe, probably less. With treatment, good odds, real hope. But $80,000 might as well be $80 million for a family already bankrupted by medical bills. Let me see what I can do. I can't promise anything, but I'll try. I'll talk to Vic. I'll talk to the board. I'll figure something out. Rachel went to Vic's office. He was there less and less now, still recovering from the heart attack, still dealing with his own health issues. But he listened. He always listened. I promised Sarah we'd help, but I checked the foundation finances. We're stretched thin this month. Really thin. Medical bills for 3 other families. Rent assistance for 2 more. The construction on Brennan House is over budget. We've got commitments we've already made. People depending on us. She paused. Let the weight of it settle. We don't have $80,000. Not right now. Not without cutting other programs. Not without failing other people. Vic looked at her across the desk. His face was tired, worn. The face of a man who'd been making impossible choices for 20 years. Sometimes we can't save everyone, Rachel. That's the hardest part of this work. The part that keeps me up at night. The part that makes me question everything. We have limited resources and unlimited need. Sometimes we have to choose. Sometimes we have to say no. And it destroys me every single time. There has to be a way. Rachel's voice was firm. She wasn't accepting no, wasn't accepting defeat. Vic studied her, saw something in her face. Determination. Fire. The same thing he'd seen in the gas station parking lot when she refused to give up on him. What are you thinking? I'll organize a fundraiser, community event. Get everyone we've helped to contribute what they can. Local businesses, media coverage. We can do this. I know we can. We just need to ask. Need to show people why it matters. Need to make it personal. That's a lot of pressure on you. A lot of work, and no guarantee it'll work. I learned from the best. She looked him in the eye, unwavering. Vic smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him in weeks. Then do it. You have my full support. Whatever you need, however I can help. This is your show, your event, your chance to prove what you can do. And Rachel, I believe in you, same way you believed in me. Month 4 consumed Rachel's life in the best possible way. She worked 18-hour days, coordinating the fundraiser, designing flyers, calling local businesses, setting up tables and chairs, organizing food donations, creating a website, managing social media, doing everything. Cole helped, the other coordinators helped, volunteers helped, but it was Rachel's show, her event, her chance to prove she could do this work without Vic holding her hand, her chance to save Catherine Whitmore the way someone had saved Vic, the way Vic had saved her. The fundraiser happened on a Saturday afternoon at the Brennan House construction site. The building was half finished, walls up, roof on, but still raw inside, still in process, still becoming. Rachel set up a stage, borrowed sound equipment, hung banners everywhere. Community kindness fundraiser, goal $80,000. The number seemed impossible, absurd, but Rachel refused to believe it couldn't be done. 500 people showed up, more than expected, more than hoped for. Neighbors from Rachel's street, families the foundation had helped, bikers in their vests, local business owners, people who'd heard about Rachel's story, people who wanted to be part of something good. Rachel stood at the microphone. Her hands shook. She'd never spoken to a crowd this big, never put herself out there like this, never asked for this much. But she thought about Sarah Whitmore's mother, thought about Emma, thought about every person who'd ever needed help and didn't get it, thought about what Vic had taught her. That sometimes you have to ask, have to be vulnerable, have to trust that people will show up. 6 months ago, I had $8 to my name, everything I had in the world. I used it to save a stranger's life, a man dying in a gas station parking lot. Everyone told me not to. Everyone said he was dangerous. Everyone said I was making a mistake. But I helped anyway. Because he was human. Because he needed help. Because it was the right thing to do. Her voice carried across the crowd. Strong, clear, true. Today I'm asking you to do the same thing, not with your last dollar, but with whatever you can spare. Because Catherine Whitmore deserves a chance. Because her daughter Sarah loves her. Because $80,000 is the difference between life and death. Between a mother watching her daughter graduate college and get married and have children. Or dying alone in a hospital bed while insurance companies shuffle papers and make excuses. The donation started small, $10, $20, $50, but people kept coming, kept giving. People Rachel had helped came up one by one with their stories, their gratitude, their desire to pay it forward. Nate Briggs walked to the front. He wore his welding training uniform, stood tall for the first time since Rachel had met him, shoulders back, head up, proud. 4 months ago, I was homeless, living in my car, ready to give up on everything, on life, on myself, on hope. Rachel Brennan saved my life, not with money, with belief. She wouldn't let me quit, wouldn't let me give up, kept showing up even when I pushed her away, kept believing even when I couldn't believe in myself. His voice carried, strong, real, powerful. I just got my first real paycheck yesterday, $840, the first honest money I've earned in 2 years. I'm donating every penny, every single dollar, because Catherine Whitmore deserves the same chance Rachel gave me, the same chance Vic gave Rachel. That's what we do. We help each other. We pay it forward. We prove that kindness creates more kindness. The crowd erupted in applause. Nate handed Rachel the check with shaking hands. She hugged him tight, felt him break down, felt his tears on her shoulder. Let him have that moment, that release, that proof that he mattered. Patrick Sullivan walked up next. The father Rachel had helped in month one. His family had been 3 days from eviction. My family was 3 days from living on the street. The foundation helped us. Found me a job, paid rent until I got back on my feet, gave us time to breathe, to recover, to survive. Here's $500, everything we've saved, every penny we could spare, because we remember what it felt like to need help, and now we can help someone else. Mrs. Caldwell shuffled to the front, 80 years old, leaning on a cane, moving slowly but determined. She handed Rachel an envelope with shaking hands. "This is my Social Security check. $200. Take it. All of it." "Mrs. Caldwell, I can't take your Social Security. You need that. You need to eat, need to pay bills." "You can and you will, child. That woman's life is worth more than my groceries this month. I'll manage. I always manage. But she won't manage without treatment. She'll die. And I can't let that happen. Not when I can help. Not when $200 might be the difference. Take it. Honor it. Save her." One by one, people Rachel had helped donated. Most of them gave small amounts, $20, $50, $100, but they added up, dollar by dollar, person by person, kindness by kindness. After 1 hour, the total was $23,000, announced on a big board, updated in real time, but it wasn't enough, wasn't even close. They needed more than triple that, needed a miracle. Rachel's heart sank. They'd tried, done everything they could, but it wasn't enough. Catherine Whitmore would die and Sarah would lose her mother and Rachel would have failed and $80,000 was just too much, too impossible, too far out of reach. Then Cole walked up to the microphone. "We're going to make one more ask to the local businesses here today. The ones who've built their success in this community, the ones who know what it means to be part of something bigger than profit. Match what the community has given. Show them that Tulsa takes care of its own. Show them that we're all in this together." 3 business owners stepped forward. A car dealership owner, a construction company CEO, a medical supply distributor. Together they pledged $30,000, announced it right there. Checks already written, ready to give. The total climbed to $53,000, getting closer, but still short, still not enough. $27,000 short of a life, of hope, of Catherine Whitmore seeing another Christmas. Rachel could feel the gap, the weight of Sarah Whitmore's hope pressing down on her shoulders like a physical thing. The knowledge that she'd promised to try and trying wasn't enough. The reality that sometimes your best isn't good enough and people die anyway. Then a man in a suit walked up. Rachel had never seen him before, didn't recognize him. He handed Cole an envelope without saying a word. Cole opened it. His eyes went wide, wider than Rachel had ever seen them. He showed Rachel a check for $27,000. Exactly what they needed to hit 80,000. Exactly. To the dollar. "Who is that?" Rachel whispered. Desperate to know, desperate to thank whoever had just saved Catherine Whitmore's life. Cole smiled, a knowing smile, a smile that held secrets. "Anonymous donor. That's all I can tell you." But Rachel knew. She looked across the crowd and saw Vic standing in the back, leaning against his motorcycle, watching. He caught her eye, tipped his head slightly, the smallest acknowledgement. She mouthed the words, "Thank you." He smiled and walked away, disappeared into the crowd like he'd never been there. The crowd erupted when Cole announced they'd hit the goal, $80,000. Every penny going to Catherine Whitmore's treatment, every dollar representing someone who chose to help, someone who believed, someone who proved that humanity still existed. Sarah Whitmore collapsed in Rachel's arms, sobbing, shaking, unable to stand, unable to process, unable to believe. You did this. You saved my mother. You saved her life. We all did this. Every person here, every dollar given, every hand reached out. That's what community means. That's what we do for each other. Your mother is going to live. That's all that matters. That night, Rachel drove home exhausted, drained, empty in the best possible way. She'd done it. Raised more money than she'd ever seen in her life. Saved a life. Proved she could do this work. Proved Vic was right to believe in her. Emma was asleep when she got home. Mrs. Webb had watched her, still wouldn't accept payment, still insisted that neighbors help neighbors. Rachel kissed her daughter's forehead, sat on the edge of the bed in the room that was clean and warm and safe. You're going to grow up in a different world, baby. A world where people help each other, where kindness isn't rare, where nobody has to face their struggles alone, where your mother helps people for a living instead of just surviving. That's the world I'm building for you. That's the promise I'm keeping. Emma stirred, mumbled something in her sleep, smiled without waking. Rachel pulled the blanket up to her chin, the soft blanket that wasn't worn through, the blanket that was clean and new and everything a child deserved. Month 5 brought results that felt like miracles, but were just people helping people. Catherine Whitmore started treatment. The cancer responded. Doctors were cautiously optimistic. The tumors were shrinking. Her prognosis improved. She might actually survive, might actually live to see her daughter get married, have grandchildren, grow old. Sarah got a part-time job at Lily's foundation, wanted to give back, wanted to help other people the way she'd been helped, wanted to be part of the cycle of kindness that had saved her mother's life. Nate Briggs graduated from welding training at the top of his class, got hired at a union shop, good pay, full benefits, a pension, health insurance, a future that looked like something instead of nothing. He showed up at Rachel's office with flowers. Real flowers from a real flower shop, not gas station carnations. I owe you my life. His voice was steady now, strong, the voice of someone who'd found solid ground. You owe me nothing. Just help the next person. That's how this works. That's what we do. We receive help and then we give help and the cycle continues and nobody falls through the cracks alone. Nate signed up as a volunteer, started mentoring other veterans, running a support group at Brennan House once it opened, became the person for others that Rachel had been for him. The cycle continued. The kindness multiplied. The construction on Brennan House continued. Rachel visited every day, walked through the building as it took shape. The job training center where people like Nate would learn new skills. The food bank where people like she used to be could get groceries without shame. The medical clinic where people like Mrs. Caldwell could get health care they could afford. The after-school program where kids like Emma could be safe and learn and grow. Everything the neighborhood needed, everything the community deserved. Month 6 arrived faster than seemed possible. Time moved differently now. Not the slow grind of survival, but the swift current of purpose. Brennan House was finished. Complete. Real. No longer a blueprint or a construction site, but an actual building. A community center. A place of hope. The grand opening happened on a Saturday. Ribbon cutting ceremony. Rachel and Emma held the scissors together. Emma's small hands on top of Rachel's. Mother and daughter, past and future. Struggle and hope. They cut the ribbon and the doors opened and people flooded in. A reporter stuck a microphone in Rachel's face. Channel 6 News. How does it feel to have a building named after you? Rachel thought about her answer. Wanted to get it right. This isn't about me. It's about what happens when a community decides to take care of each other. When people choose kindness over fear. When we remember that we're all in this together. That's what Brennan House represents. Not me, us, all of us. The doors opened and people came. 43 people on the first day. By the end of the week, hundreds. Everyone who came left with something they needed. Food, job training, medical care, after-school programming for kids, hope, dignity, proof that someone cared. Mrs. Caldwell worked the front desk part-time, greeting people, making them feel welcome, making sure they knew they weren't alone. Nate ran security, made sure everyone felt safe. Also ran the veteran support group twice a week. Patrick Sullivan volunteered at the Job Training Center, teaching others what he'd learned. Sarah Whitmore coordinated the medical clinic volunteers while her mother underwent treatment. Everyone Rachel had helped was helping others. The cycle continued. The kindness multiplied. The miracle kept happening. Rachel stood in the center of it all, watching, overwhelmed, grateful, amazed that this was real, that this was her life, that 6 months ago she'd had $8 and now she ran a community center that served hundreds of people. Vic appeared beside her. He moved slower now, still recovering, still healing, but his eyes were bright, proud. You built this. His voice was warm, full of approval. No, we built this, Rachel corrected him automatically, always uncomfortable taking credit, always deflecting. I just gave you the tools, but you did the work. You raised the money. You saved Catherine Whitmore. You helped Nate. You proved you don't need me anymore. You proved you can't do this work, lead this work, be this work. I'll always need you. You showed me who I could be. Vic smiled. That's all a teacher can do. Show someone what's possible. But you're the one who made it real, made it happen, made it matter. 2 weeks after the opening, Rachel was driving home late at night. She'd been at Brennan House until almost midnight, helping a family fill out applications for housing assistance, helping them navigate the system, helping them find hope. She was exhausted but satisfied, tired but fulfilled. She needed gas, pulled into the Route 66 gas station, the same one where everything had started, the same parking lot where she'd knelt beside Vic, where she'd made the choice that changed her life, changed everything. The place looked the same fluorescent lights buzzing, same cracked pavement, same sense of being forgotten by time. But Rachel was different, completely different. 6 months ago, she'd pulled in here with $8. Now she pulled in with a full tank of gas in a car that worked, in a job that mattered, in a daughter who was safe. Rachel filled up the Honda, paid inside. The attendant was someone new, not Travis, someone younger who didn't remember her, didn't know her story. She walked back out to her car. That's when she saw him, a young man, maybe 25, standing beside a broken-down pickup truck. White guy, thin, wearing work clothes covered in paint stains. He was on his phone, pacing, clearly stressed. The kind of stress that comes from being broke and desperate and out of options. Rachel walked towards her car, then stopped. Something made her turn around, some recognition, some echo of herself 6 months ago, some understanding of what desperation looked like. The young man hung up his phone, sat on the curb with his head in his hands, the universal posture of defeat, of giving up, of being out of options. Rachel walked over. You okay? He looked up, eyes red, exhausted, the eyes of someone who'd been crying or was about to. Truck broke down. I need a tow, but I can't afford it. I got $3 in my pocket. The tow company wants $50, and I got to pick up my son from daycare in 20 minutes. If I'm late, they charge me $1 a minute. I don't have that either. Don't have anything. Lost my job last week. Behind on rent, behind on everything. I'm drowning and I can't figure out how to swim. His voice cracked, broke, raw with desperation. How much do you need? Rachel already knew she'd help, already decided, already understood that this was why she was here, why she'd stop for gas at this exact station, why the universe had brought her full circle. $8. If I had $8, I could take the bus to daycare, get my son, figure out the truck tomorrow. But I don't have $8. Don't have anything. Rachel opened her purse, pulled out $50, handed it to him. watched his face transform from defeat to disbelief to hope. What? No, I can't take this. I don't even know you. Yes, you can. Get your truck towed. Get your son. Take care of what needs taking care of. She pulled out a business card. Lily's Foundation, her name on it. Rachel Brennan, Community Outreach Coordinator, handed it to him. When you're back on your feet, help someone else. Pass it on, that's all I ask. And if you need more help, real help, call this number. We help people. It's what we do. The young man's hands shook. Tears ran down his face, dropped onto the $50 bill. I don't even know you. Why would you help me? Rachel smiled, a smile that held 6 months of transformation, of understanding, of purpose, because someone helped me when I had nothing, because I know what it feels like to be desperate, to need help, to be drowning. And because helping you is how I honor what was given to me. That's how this works. Kindness creates more kindness. The young man stared at her like she just handed him salvation. Maybe she had. Rachel got in her car, drove away, looked in the rearview mirror arm, and saw him standing there staring at the money in the card like she just handed him a miracle. Like the universe had heard him. Like someone actually cared. 6 months later, Rachel stood at the 1-year anniversary celebration for Brennan House. A banner stretched across the front of the building. 1 year of kindness, when 127 families helped. The place was packed. Music played, kids ran around, food covered long tables, bikers mixed with neighbors, mixed with families who'd been helped, mixed with volunteers who'd given their time. The boundaries had dissolved. The categories had disappeared. Just people helping people. Emma played with other children, laughing, carefree, healthy. Her inhaler always full now. Never a worry, never a fear, never a mother too exhausted to care properly. Rachel stood on the small stage, looked out at the crowd, saw faces she knew, lives she'd touched, people who'd helped her and people she'd helped in the beautiful tangle of it all. A year ago, I spent my last $8 on a stranger. People told me I was making a mistake, that I was bringing trouble into my life, that I should have walked away, should have minded my own business, should have saved that money for my daughter. The crowd quieted, listening, understanding that this moment mattered. But what I learned is this: kindness is never a mistake, even when it costs you everything, especially then, because kindness creates more kindness, because helping one person can change everything, because we're all connected and what we do matters, and sometimes $8 can save a life and start a movement and build a community and prove that the world is better than we think it is. She paused, saw Vic in the back. He nodded, proud. We're all here because someone chose kindness. Someone chose to help. Someone chose to see past fear and judgment and just see a human being who needed help. That's what Brennan House is. That's what we do. That's who we are. We help. We care. We show up. We prove that kindness isn't weakness. It's strength. It's power. It's everything. Applause rolled through the crowd, real, heartfelt, grateful. A young man pushed through to the front. Rachel recognized him, Travis Malone, the guy from the gas station 6 months ago. He wore a Lily's Foundation volunteer vest, working, helping, paying it forward. He walked up on stage. Rachel, you gave me $50 when I had nothing. Gave me a card, told me to help someone else when I could. I got my truck fixed, got back on my feet, and got a real job. And now I'm here, volunteering, helping other people, because you helped me first, because you showed me what kindness looks like, because you proved that people still care. The crowd erupted. Rachel hugged him. The cycle continued, would always continue, as long as people chose kindness. That evening, after everyone left, Rachel stood in the empty Brennan house. Emma had fallen asleep on one of the couches, worn out from playing. Vic sat beside her, watching the little girl breathe, peaceful, safe, loved. You don't need me anymore, Rachel. His voice was soft, proud, bittersweet. I never did. You just showed me I was strong enough. Rachel sat on the other side of Emma, the three of them together, past, present, future. That's all I wanted, to help you see what I saw that night in the gas station. Someone willing to give everything for a stranger. That's the rarest thing in the world, and the most valuable. And you've multiplied it, turned your $8 into 127 families helped, into a building, into a movement, into proof that one person can change everything. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing me first. Vic stood slowly, grimaced, Agent Miles taking their toll, put his hand on Rachel's shoulder. The building named after you, it's just the beginning. You're going to change this city, one $8 decision at a time. Then he was gone. Rachel sat in the quiet building, Emma asleep beside her. She thought about the gas station, the choice, the $8 that changed everything. She thought about all the people who told her she was wrong, all the fear, all the doubt, all the warnings. She'd ignored them all, chosen kindness instead, and it had saved her life as much as it had saved Vic's. Emma stirred, opened her eyes. Mommy, can we go home now? Yeah, baby, let's go home. Rachel carried her daughter to the car, drove through quiet streets, past the gas station where it all started, past Mrs. Tucker's house where the warnings had come from, past the spot where 100 motorcycles had lined up and changed everything. She pulled into her parking spot, carried Emma upstairs, tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, pulled the soft blanket up on her chin. Rachel walked to her own room, pulled out her journal, the same one she'd been writing in for years. 3 things I'm grateful for. She wrote: 1, Emma is healthy and safe. 2, I found my purpose. 3, kindness is contagious. She closed the journal, looked at the volunteer vest hanging on the back of her door, the crown with wings, the symbol of a family she'd never expected to find. Tomorrow someone else would need help. Someone else would be struggling. Someone else would be down to their last $8. And Rachel Brennan would be there, ready to help, ready to show them what kindness looks like, ready to prove that one person can make a difference. Because kindness costs nothing, and sometimes it's everything.